So Sam, tell me like all about your job now, because you were reporting in DC and now you do something a little different.
Yeah, it's much different. So I was on air for uh, 8 years, and then I moved over to the network. And in my last couple of years at WJLA in DC, I was on a beat transportation, which a lot of markets don't have that, but in DC we do because we have a crazy metro system. We have 3 airports, and then we have the agencies, the FAA, the NTSB, the entire federal government that we can cover. And we also have crazy infrastructure and traffic issues here. So there's a plethora of news. And I learned that when you find a beat, which sometimes is tough on the local level, your life becomes a lot easier because you know your beat and you know the contacts, and people begin to call you. And you begin to build up stories where you don't have that stress every morning of, oh my God, what am I going to pitch? Because you know every day that you have this or you have that, or that someone's going to call you with something. Whereas if you're just GA and you're just doing random, stories every day, it might be a lot more difficult. And I understand that a lot of people don't have that option, especially in the smaller markets where you're, you know, maybe there's 3 dayside reporters or 4 dayside reporters, and you have to cover, whatever it is. And I get that it's hard, but my advice would be to get to know as many people as you can and build up those contacts and keep in contact with them. And you can also make like social media lists and different Google alerts to find stories, keywords. But again, I understand that can be difficult in smaller markets.
Talk about the Google alerts a little bit, because I've started doing that, but just in the last year. And I feel like a lot of reporters probably haven't thought of that.
Yeah, super helpful. So I'll use myself as an example. So in DC, when I was covering transportation, I would get in a Google alert every night. And it would, I would have United Airlines, American Airlines, Dulles Airport, Reagan Airport. And a lot of times there's little blogs or, things get posted, by government agencies or, whomever, the companies themselves, and you would otherwise miss it because maybe it didn't go out in a press release. But because it was posted online, you got a Google alert that United Airlines is doing X, Y, and Z. United Airlines is starting new service to, Jackson, Mississippi. Well, you may have not gotten a press release about that, or you're not on United's radar, so you didn't know about that, or the airport authority's radar. And now the next day, hey, look, we're going to get new service to our local airport. And for the first time, we're going to be connected to a major city or another major city. And this means more jobs, more money for the local economy. And boom, you've got a story. All because of a Google alert. And you just type in the random words that you are important to you in your city. If you're in Mobile, Alabama, you type in Mobile economy, Mobile local government, Mobile, Main Street, whatever it is, and you'll get those triggers. So these people, whether it's a PR company, a local blogger, some sort of government agency, you'll know about that, and you won't be stressing that morning before you go into that 9 o'clock meeting.
It's so much simpler. I feel like, especially me, I mean, I had been a reporter for 10 years and I was overthinking everything, just thinking too hard and almost, freaking out about the morning meeting when there's so many things that you may not have thought about to make life easier on yourself. Anything else that you use like that? Kind of that
This
out of the
doesn't have
box
to do with the morning
thinking.
meeting, but I will agree with you. That was the most stressful part of my day
Yeah.
for a number of years. And it's an awful feeling when you don't have the story idea. But you kind of just have to work past that. But you find yourself always looking for ideas. But here's something that is life-changing. And if you're not using it, you're doing yourself a disservice. Get the app called Otter, Otter, and it will log all of your interviews, and it's free. Up to, I think it's like you get 40 minutes per session. So if you're shooting an interview and you're tight on time or you have plenty of time, just roll the Otter, and anything that person says will be transcribed for you in real time. So you'll never have to go back and log. And then when you have it on your computer, you can just do Control F and find the word, you thought might be the SOT that you need, copy and paste it into your script. And you don't need to transcribe your interviews anymore. Say you forget to log it in real time or audio it in real time. You could just play back your interview with the phone next to your computer, and it will log it, just from the playback, and you will have all of your sound. And it's a huge help. So record in set your timer to 0 when you start doing your interview. That's a help. Otherwise, you may find yourself searching, although your interview shouldn't be that long for the most part normally. So you should be able to find it relatively quickly if the time codes don't match up. But the hard part is typing and sitting there and stopping and starting and stopping and starting and stopping and starting. And when you're cramming for time at 4:00 and you have a 5:00 package or a 6:00 package, it's a big help to have Otter, and it's free. There's another service called Trint, Trint, I think, or TRNT. It costs money, but maybe your station will pay for it. But you can just submit your clip, your file to Trent. You just upload it into Trent, and it will send you back a transcribed file. But that it does cost money. I don't know how much, but maybe you can get your station to pay for a group account or something. But it's life changing.
So I want to bring up something because we hadn't talked for a while, but my husband reached out and was like, Sam Sweeney just broke some big news. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I still didn't look at it because I get distracted really easy. But can you talk about that and like how you found it and what the story was about?
It was
the lawsuit or something about the it happened a few days ago, so I forgot already. Wasn't it about like Boeing or something?
So we got tipped off on that. Again, because of contacts that you make over time, we knew in a week in advance that Boeing was going to be sued or fined $2.5 billion. And because we were tipped off on that, we had everything pre-written. We knew the details of the fine. We knew when it was going to be unsealed. Everybody, on our team, our transportation team here at the network knew it was coming. And we were prepared and ready to go. So once it broke, we get it up first, and that's how it works.
I feel like a hard thing that people overlook, especially in smaller markets, is the trust factor, which is like the number one thing to get stories like that. Mm-hmm. Was this a contact you had been working with for a very long time?
Yeah, and I will say that it takes time to build that trust, and a lot of trust is broken. And sometimes it can be harder on the local level to get people to trust you, because for you're like, yeah, like I'm here, I promise you can trust me. But then in a flash, your 2-year contract is up and you're on to your next market, and that can be difficult because these local officials see these kids cycle in and cycle out, and they don't really want to put that investment because they know you're going to be gone soon. And that's just something that you have to deal with, and it's tough. Yeah. But if you can build those relationships over time, it will be helpful to you. Yeah. And again, if you can get a beat in your market, get a beat, because your life will be significantly easier. When you are asked by your news director to work on, this story about X, Y, and Z, you don't have to email media at, blank, 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 because you can just contact the person directly through text and be like, hey, what's the deal with this? Is this a story or not? And you don't have to go through the cryptic statement that comes out, because you know what the deal is. So
are you loving this new job because you're a producer now, right? Instead of
on the other side. It's great. A lot of people say, but you want to go on air, and it's like, nah, not really. I'm great where I am. I get to do, cover a beat that I really enjoy and that I understand and that I have contacts with, and it's easy, and I get to call the shots. And it's a lot more fulfilling than being tossed into a fire every day.
That's exactly what it feels like. So what is different? What do you think would be surprising for reporters to hear that may be different at that level that they may not have thought about?
I have to think about that. The expectations are high,
Mhm.
and that you have to deliver, and there's no room for error.
Mm.
So you really have to be sure about what you're putting out there and what you're reporting, because when you make a mistake at the local level, it's embarrassing. When you make a mistake on the national level, you've embarrassed yourself in front of the entire country. And if you're a producer and you put out bad information, that's a real problem.
Yeah.
So the bar is quite high. The workload is a little bit different. There may be a couple of days where I'm slow and I'm just not doing much, but then there may be, a 72-hour period where I only sleep for 5 hours, or we're on the road. A couple of weeks ago, we were covering the Max 8 story. So the 737 Max 8 was grounded for, since March of 2019. American Airlines invited us to fly on their first flight. So we flew down to Dallas early one morning. We flew on the plane the entire day up to Tulsa, came back. We were on World News that night. We were on Good Morning America the next morning. As soon as we were cleared from GMA, we flew up to Chicago to meet with United Airlines. We landed in Chicago at like 2:00. We went to the cold chain facility where they were doing the vaccine distribution. We had a live view on our back. We were feeding our interviews and all of our video back to New York, and we were the top story for World News. And you think we were in Chicago, so World News was an hour earlier because of the time difference. So everything was happening in real time, but someone in New York is taking all of that and putting it all together. And then at the last second, we run out, we kind of adjust the script that someone has kind of written for us. And you're live at the top of, and David Muir is tossing to you, and you got to be ready to go, and you got to know what you're talking about. And then the next morning we flew back to Washington, and we have a couple of days off, but maybe you don't. Maybe you're on to the next trip. The GA correspondents can go 20, 30 days without a day off. And when you're on Good Morning America, you're on, you're in position at no later than 6:15, 6:20. It's not like you just pop a live view on and go. There are crews that set up there beginning at 5 a.m., sometimes 4:30 a.m. The producer will show up later with the correspondent. And then you'll maybe take a little bit of a break, but you may be right back for World News. And you're collecting elements all day. You do have a large support system, but it's a lot of work. And the GA correspondents at the network work really hard, and they do write their own scripts. A lot of people are like, yeah, but everything's done for them. It's this, plush life. It's not so plush. They work really, really hard. And yes, they have a great support system, but they work really hard. The hours are really long. I'll give you an example. I was working with a correspondent the day of the Capitol insurrection, and she had covered the Georgia elections the days previous. She was live for Nightline at 11 p.m. Eastern, and then was up in the morning for GMA the next day, cleared from GMA, got on a flight and went to DC, did all day at the Capitol riots. We were all day live for network special coverage, live in World News, live for the special coverage at 8 p.m. through 10 p.m., live for Nightline at 11, left the Capitol at around midnight, and she was back at the Capitol for GMA the next morning.
Wow.
There's, that's 4 hours of sleep, maybe, over the course of several days. They work really hard.
Wow. Yeah, I would have never have guessed that because they always look wonderful. You never
There is
see
no
what's
makeup people.
happening behind. I'm so proud of you. I feel
Thanks.
like in such a short time, so much has been accomplished, and it's exciting to see friends do so well.
Yeah. My advice would be follow your heart and know that a lot of people say, oh, how did you know to leave? A lot of people, I'm burnout, I'm done. And sometimes you need an experience or a moment to say, like, I've had enough and I've got to go and I need to change. It's okay. It's okay to make that change out of news. And a lot of people are scared. I don't know what I will do. I don't know what I would do if I left news, but I'm miserable. If you have that, if you're in that boat, you need to make a change.
Yeah. I will say from a personal perspective, that's where I was. And while it's still weird because it's only been 4 months, I have grown so much in 4 months learning my potential, because I feel like there is a little bit of a stifling aspect when you're in news. You're put in a box and this is what you're going to do every day and that's where you're going to stay. But here I feel like, people support you. I don't know if you feel like that at the network level, but people, support you and give you confidence that I had never had before at another news job.
Yeah.
I also look at things a lot differently as far as how to find stories and different ways to do it instead of just doing it the same old way all the time. So that's why I started this.
That's good. And sometimes you need that. And there were days where I was like, what am I doing here? And I, in full transparency, I never applied for my job at the network. They come to me, and I was very fortunate that happened, because the job that I'm in, I never would have applied for because it just wasn't on my radar.
Right.
And when they offered it to me, I had to think about it, and I was like, what do I have to lose? I'll do it. And if I don't like it, then I can come back.
Right. Being open to opportunity in any aspect in life is so important.
Yeah. Say yes. Say yes to everything.
Yes.
But know when to say no.
Yes.
And remember that if you are in a dicey situation, or you're not quite sure what you want to do, your whole timeline of your career is this long, and wherever you are is just a little blip.
Yeah.
And if you have a bad experience at a station, or it's not going, this is not the career that you thought it would be, just know that's a little blip, and there's so much more out there.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Sam?
If anyone has any questions, or if they ever want to reach out for advice, or they want me to look at their tape, or whatever they need, or they have questions about what it takes to be a network correspondent, or a network producer, or a network photographer, I'm happy to help. For the photographers out there, I will say that on the network level, most of our guys and men and women who are our photographers are freelance and don't actually work for the network. And that's a big misconception. A lot of people are like, can you get me in? Can you get me in? But they don't work for the network. So we have the photographers that I work with. On Monday, they work for ABC. On Tuesday, they work for NBC. And on Wednesday, they may work for CNN.
Yeah.
There are a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, they are freelance. And they provide all their own equipment. We just call them up and we say, this is where we need you and this is what we need. And the producer actually carries the live view.
Ah,
Yeah.
there you go. Carry the equipment, Sam. What is your email for people who want to email you?
Sam.Sweeney@abc.com.
Okay. Super cool. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam.